I am a magic historian, so I wonder about different aspects of magic. Like, for example, what is it about magic that causes regularly cynical people to become temporary believers in the impossible? Is it that maybe some people like mystery? Or perhaps that other people want to think there's more to life than just what they see with their eyes? The magician comes along and turns reality upside down, and for the briefest of moments, creates a feeling of wonderment in people. Or maybe it's like P.T. Barnum said, people just love to be fooled. In the 17th and 18th centuries, magicians were not known as magicians. They were actually known as jugglers because what they did involved manual dexterity. Most of these performers performed outdoors at fairs and festivals and on streets, actually, like buskers. They performed with cards and coins, cups and balls and eggs, and were often accused of being in a league with the devil. They weren't, but that's what they were accused of. Now, in the early 19th century, magicians wised up. They moved indoors and to salons and parlors and theaters. They continued to use some of the smaller objects from before, but gradually began to add larger things. The European magicians, like the French magician Robert Houdin, was a clockmaker by trade and actually began to build what were called automaton. These were mechanical devices like wind-up toys. And some of his things might have looked like wind-up toys to the uninitiated, but in the hands of a skilled magician, these things could come to life in a way that defied their mechanical nature. Then we get to the late 19th century. This is the golden age of magic. Magicians of this time period were the rock stars of their day, believe it or not. And it was not uncommon for a magician to walk out to a sold-out audience. Even an unknown magician might walk out to a sold-out audience. This is how popular the art form was. To get people to come back each time, every time they returned to a town or a city, they brought bigger and greater mysteries, which was really exciting. And unlike their predecessors from 100 years before, these magicians actually embraced the imagery of the devil and the demon. This is an example right here. You can see the devils and demons in their posters. Oddly enough, they didn't include that in their shows, but they had it all over their posters and their advertising. Now, around 1899 comes a fellow you may have heard of, the great Harry Houdini. Although in 1899 he was not quite so great. He had been struggling for a number of years, trying to make a name for himself. And through this struggle, he basically developed his own unique form of magic. It was a very straightforward, very direct way of performing. And he would start his performances by saying, "Nothing I do is supernatural. Everything is done by a very natural manner." And then he would proceed to fool people like you wouldn't believe. One of his most famous mysteries was called the Metamorphosis. And this was a steamer trunk that Houdini would get inside. They would tie him up, they'd place him inside this trunk, the lid would be shut and locked, and the whole thing would be roped up. And then a small curtain cabinet would go around this. Houdini's assistant would step inside and count to 3. And on 3, the curtain would burst open and Houdini would walk out free from the trunk. But the assistant was missing. And later the assistant would be found inside the trunk, tied up just as Houdini had been moments before. Houdini continued to add escapes into his show. As a matter of fact, he created something that is called the Challenge Act, and this was fascinating. He would let individuals or organizations or businesses challenge him to escape from things of their own creation. For example, there may be like a local brewery, for example, that would say, "Mr. Houdini, we have this giant keg of beer, and we want to put you inside the giant keg of beer, lock it up, and see if you can get out." And I know what you're saying. You're thinking, well, he drank his way out. But no, but he did escape, and mysteriously. Another example might be like a group of sailors, for example, might challenge Houdini. They'd say, "Mr. Houdini, we'd like to tie you up, and we'll use our best sailor knots, and we're sure you can't get out," but he always did. Now, Houdini to create his brand of magic was stripping away all the fancy stuff, all the glitz to create his unique brand. But other magicians of the time were adding glitz. They were adding showgirls and fancy costumes and beautiful backdrops and magic boxes galore. And you might say to yourself, well, in a case like that, I guess Houdini would be the more popular. But actually, that wasn't necessarily the case. You see, some people like the theatrical, and some people like the more realistic. And magicians knew three very important things. They knew to be successful, number one, you had to be mystifying. Number two, you had to be entertaining. And number three, they knew that P.T. Barnum was right. People love to be fooled. And with that, we would like to mystify and entertain you now with a little bit of magic, if that's all right. Okay. Can you get that? Okay. In order to do this, though, I need to borrow a dollar bill, and I understand with so many students that might be tough, but I think we have somebody, there we go, thank you very much. All right, this is your dollar bill. I didn't give this to you, is that correct? Okay, good. All right, so we begin this presentation with a federal offense. Not the tearing of the bill, actually. I'm referring to a very obscure law called the Anti Teleportation Act of 1897, which you may or may not be aware, prohibits all forms of teleportation from now until, I think it's 100 years or so into the future. Fortunately for me, I've been given a waiver. I won't say how, but I've been given a waiver. So for you, if you could do me a favor, if you could hold on to half the bill. All right, that's your receipt. Thank you. All right. The rest of the bill goes into our newly discovered Victorian teleportation contraption. All right, like so. And watch closely. We turn it on, and the mystery begins. Oh, and if you can hear that sound, that means the mystery is complete. Actually, it could also mean the mystery is caught in the gears. But I'm going with the mystery is complete. I'm going to go with that. And, actually, this is the element of surprise. Look at this. Or to be more specific, this is the lighting element. Because the surprise is over here, where once, just a moment ago, this lighting element shined brightly. Now, in this bulb, a familiar object. $50 bill. $50 bill with a serial number. You have the bill there. Hopefully you can see this in the dark, but I'm going to read the serial number off to you. The first letter is B, is that correct? 1427 8434, and the last letter is J. All right, we want to get that back to you, so let's go ahead and we're going to drop that in there, and there we go. Let's go ahead and give you back you can take that, there you go, your dollar bill. There you are. And ladies and gentlemen, by the way, this is my assistant Denise. I'm Carnegie, and you just witnessed Thomas Edison's favorite mystery.